Good evening, hello and welcome. You're watching Viewpoint. I'm Anusha Soni. The diplomatic ties between India and Canada are at an all-time low. It only seems to get worse with time. It all started after Justin Trudeau on the 18th of September made an explosive allegation on the potential involvement of Indian agents in the killing of Khalistani extremist Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a Canadian citizen. That was the allegation that was put on the table without any substance or proof. India, as expected, responded sharply, dismissing all allegations and calling them baseless. India has also officially halted the process of issuing visa to the Canadians. And now another bombshell. US Ambassador to Canada, David Cohen, has said that there was a shared intelligence among the Five Eyes partners that informed Trudeau about these public allegations that have been made by him on the floor of the Canadian Parliament. NIA here in India has released a list of 19 fugitives located in US, UK, Australia, Pakistan, Dubai and Canada, pointing out to the K-nexus that exists and the need to crack down upon it, tightening news around this entire Khalistani propaganda. Defence Minister of Canada has stated that relationship between the two nations is important. India also says that they want to ensure that the sovereignty and the national security of the country is given utmost importance. Now, will Canada rein in on the anti-India elements, or this stand of this entire position that Canada has taken will damage the long-term relationship between the two nations? Our focus on Viewpoint tonight.
Any involvement of a foreign government in the killing of a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil is an unacceptable violation of our sovereignty. In the strongest possible terms, I continue to urge the government of India to cooperate with Canada to get to the bottom of this matter.
The issue of safe havens and places to operate is being provided abroad, including in Canada. We would expect that that is the main focus. The question is, do we have the political will to address terrorism, or we want to justify it and condone it?
I believe it's a very baseless information. India has never been involved in such activities. India has always condemned Pakistan-backed militancy. India is the one country which is victim of militancy. And India has been calling international community to define the definition of a terrorist.
मैं कनाडा सरकार से कहना चाहूंगा कि कुछ मुट्ठी भर जो लोग माहौल बिगाड़ने का काम कर रहे हैं, उन पर जल्दी से अंकुश लगाए, उन पर कार्रवाई करे। भारत जो है सदैव शांति में विश्वास करता है, सद्भावना में विश्वास करता है। भारत पूरी दुनिया को एक परिवार के रूप में मानता है।
All right, we'll have a whole panel and experts joining us on the broadcast here on Viewpoint tonight. Joining us right now is Jurjit Sabharwal, who's the spokesperson of BJP. We are expecting Mr. Ashok Sajjanar and Lieutenant General KJ Singh to join us in just a bit. We also have DN Baxendale, who's a columnist, with us on the broadcast joining us. But Jurjit ji, coming to you first, taking in a view from you. When it comes to the manner in which the statements have been made by, Cohen and others, pointing out to the shared intelligence between the five nations, how is it that the government of India is viewing the position that major superpowers like US have taken? Of course, this is an issue on which the Indian government has given national security the biggest priority, like it should have been. But are we expecting international support to pour in?
First of all, the very basic point is Canada has not given any sort of proof or evidence for the allegations that they have made against the Indian government. Secondly, it is very unfortunate that a Prime Minister speaking in the Parliament, raising objections and framing India without any evidence in the Canadian Parliament. It's very unfortunate. Now you talk about the US and the Canada that, the US is supporting Canada or not. I think it is very early to come to a conclusion, because unless we have something, strong at hand, a strong evidence, we cannot come to a conclusion. And one thing I would like to point out in this, that the Hardeep Nijjar case, which we are talking about here, The Canadian government, we have all the indications. He was being protected. The Hardeep Nijjar, who was a terrorist, he was being protected by the Canadian government. Balraj Singh Nijjar, who is the son of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, he gave a statement in which he said Hardeep Nijjar was constantly in touch with the Canadian Security Intelligence Services, CSIS, and we used to meet them once or twice every week. In fact, in advance, before his murder, he was apprised by the intelligence of Canada that you should avoid going to the Gurdwaras, you should avoid political daily life. So I think before that we come to a conclusion that India has done something or not, let's wait for them to produce evidence and then we'll get on.
One more aspect I'd like you to speak about before I move on to our other guest who's with us on the broadcast. This entire Khalistani propaganda somewhere wants to thrive on the narrative that Sikh or Sikhism is in danger in India and the government is doing something against it. And in fact, if you look at the state of Punjab and if you look at the overall country, Sikhs forms a very intrinsic part of Indian country, Indian defense forces and every part of our establishment. This narrative has had no resonance on the ground. Why do you think that a particular section of population, especially in these countries like Canada, Australia, have got the kind of political subterfuge to put out this kind of narrative which at home finds no resonance?
See, I'm very keen on giving a very to-the-point answer to your question. Sikhs are not under threat in India. Sikhs are under threat in countries like Afghanistan and Pakistan. Recently, we saw a bomb blast that happened in Afghanistan, and literally the Sikhs had to carry Guru Granth Sahib Maharaj on their head and come to India. So life is in danger there. So this is a whole propaganda, I must tell you. Basically, the Khalistani elements, they are in connivance with the Pakistan and some other Western countries, which I will not like to name them right now. What they want to do is they want to create a narrative and they want to play a victim card. This is a concept we call the radicalization through victimization. So what they want to do is they want to paint a label of Khalistan on every Sikh. They want, to create a friction between the Hindus and the Sikhs. They want the agencies, the Indian agencies, to respond, to retaliate. They want Hindus to retaliate so that there is a communal tension between them. And that is how they want to bring this Khalistan movement on the world map.
No, I agree with you, and to that point answer that this is exactly the modus operandi of radicalization that takes place. We also have Mr. Ashok Sajjanar, the former diplomat, joining us on the broadcast. Lieutenant General KJ Singh, who's a defense analyst, is also joining us. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. DN Baxendale, coming to you, taking in a view from you, the recent, worsening of ties between India and Canada and the kind of steps that have been seen and the manner in which the statement has come in that this was part of some shared intelligence and the US diplomat has spoken about it. How do you see that? And does it also mean that somewhere it is a possibility that superpowers like US or Australia, countries who are important strategic partners to India, will somehow be involved in this, or this will remain a purely bilateral issue between the two nations? Dean.
Well, first of all, there's still a question with regards to the actual intelligence information that the U.S. shared with Canada. I think that, from my sources, and, an article that I also, and somebody inside India suggested that they shared information that could have drawn a conclusion that the Indian government was involved. But there is no direct evidence at this point or smoking gun that is tying the Indian government to the murder of Nijjar. So where do I see this going? I think right now the importance of India in the geopolitical struggle of West versus the East, or communism or totalitarianism versus democracy and freedom, I think is playing out in this particular issue. As I've written, yesterday in the Sunday Guardian, Justin Trudeau has ultimately used this for a political wedge and an opportunity in which to hopefully elevate his popularity, showing himself to be tough on foreign interference and operations by diaspora communities and those that are influenced by it here in Canada and around the world. So I think America is being very cautious. They want to support their ally Canada, but at the same time, I believe that there's much more to this story, and no prime minister or individual goes forward with such an allegation in the middle of a major RCMP murder investigation without having irrefutable proof. And I'm not sure that that is in his hands at this point.
All right, if there is irrefutable proof, and you're right that there is a statement of David Cohen on record, but if there is irrefutable evidence or not, let me also try and cut across to Mr. Ashok Sajjanar, who's with us on the broadcast. Mr. Sajjanar, yes, the statement by David Cohen and what Justin Trudeau said earlier, it's being added up by various international publications, but does that really tantamount to any kind of evidence?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it adds up to any evidence. Let me just make 2 points.
Yeah.
Number one, that even as far as the Canadians are concerned, even as far as the Canadian Prime Minister is concerned, the Canadian Foreign Minister is concerned, they are talking about, number one, credible allegations, no evidence, of a potential link. So even they are not convinced that these allegations are in any way conclusive proof or evidence of the involvement of India. So they themselves are not convinced about that. So, how can they bring this up and, present it to India? Number two, the investigation has not been completed. It's in the middle of the investigation. And then for the Prime Minister to go to the Parliament and to make this totally unsustainable and irresponsible statement, I think this is totally uncalled for.
Yeah.
The third point that I'd like to make is that even the Premier of British Columbia, who is a partner of, who's from the Liberal Party, who's a partner of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, he himself has said that any of the intelligence or information that has been shared by Justin Trudeau with him, it's all from the what is the information that's available in the public domain.
Mr. Sajjanar, can I make an interjection to get your relevant inputs on that? Well, it's one thing to say on record, and usually these things are kept under wraps, whatever intelligence one nation has got from another. So 2 points. The fact that the Canadians said it in the public domain, that this killing was done by India. They accused India of such a heinous act without any substantial proof. And then the statement coming in from David Cohen on similar lines. But does that really add up for any kind of proof? If suppose this matter is to be taken up on a diplomatic level, or Canada wants to take up on as a bilateral issue with India, is it important for nations to put hard proof before them, or a mere intelligence source or input is enough? Mr. Sajjanar.
Yeah, I think even as far as this intelligence is concerned, I don't think it has been brought out either in the public domain. I'm not very certain how much of that has been shared with India.
Sure.
As far as what Mr. Cohen has said, I don't think really he has added anything to what Mr. Trudeau has said earlier, that, we have human intelligence, we have signal intelligence. The only thing that he's added is that even the US also has cooperated, has collaborated under the Five Eyes framework with Canada. But in terms of substance, has he added anything? Not in my view. He has just, tried to corroborate the statement of Mr. Justin Trudeau. But we've seen that the statement of Justin Trudeau didn't really lead to anything substantive. And India has said that we do not have any substantive information from Canada as far as this murder is concerned. So I think it really, the statement that was made by Mr. Trudeau on the 19th of this month in the Parliament, I think all the statements that have come out from him as far as what he said in New York, what Mr. Cohen has said, I don't think they have added anything at all to that particular statement.
And I think, sir, that's a very important point you're making. That all right, there is diplomatic statements coming in, or what Justin Trudeau has said come to the light. But has it really added anything substantial? Has it added meat to the story, less to the story, or real substantial proof for the world to see? The answer is a big no. Lieutenant General KJ Singh, sir, coming to you. The NIA has also put out a list of these K backers, or people who are wanted here in India and living in different parts of the world, including Australia, Canada and various other nations, UK. These concerns have been raised earlier as well. We enjoy great relationships. We've enjoyed great relationships with Canada as well. We are in good terms with Australia, UK and various other nations. These are friendly nations to India. That being said, the concerns of India vis-a-vis national security and the kind of nexus which is allegedly running from these foreign soils, how critical and important it is for India to take it up far more strongly. And would we be able to do that, say, with a country like Australia?
See, firstly, it's good thing that the government has now decided to take it up, because all this while we were mollycoddling or trying to put it very softly, we are trying to convince them. But now it has come out in open sort of, it is that India has put its concern out and India says that please take action against them. And in any case, even in Canada, this thing is spun out of control. See, you have to go back to the fact that Ripu Daman Singh Malik was killed, and that was an intergang kind of a warfare. And that time Ripu Daman Singh Malik had visited India before that. He had shown repentance for his acts and he was praising PM Modi. So it was said that this was not liked by Hardeep Singh Nijjar and Nijjar got him eliminated. Now you have seen that Sukhdev Singh Sukha has been killed in Winnipeg. So that is being sourced to Goldie Brar and some other gangs. Now NIA at different times have given Canadians various dossiers and lists. It gave first a list of 41 suspects. When Trudeau came last time, Justin Trudeau, CM Amrinder Singh gave him a list of 9 people, which included Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Now recently we have put out another list of 19 people. So all these lists and dossiers are being put. In any case, Hardeep Singh Nijjar had been designated as an individual terrorist, and RCN under that he was on no-fly list also. He was not allowed to fly, not take any flight. So Canada has been mollycoddling these people. It has allowed this ecosystem to spin out of control, and now it is paying a very heavy price for it. But through your channel, I'll still say, every crisis can be converted into opportunity. It is time for Canada to put its house in order, because in India there is no traction. No traction for Khalistani cause. I'm telling you.
I agree.
Nobody is standing up for this.
This propaganda which is being put out, I completely agree there. I completely agree with you there, sir. I want to take a point from Mr. Ashok Sajjanar and DN Baxendale once again. Mr. Sajjanar, first to you, coming back to you, and then I'll take this point to the other panelists as well. The manner in which after 1984, the rise in the pro-Khalistan activities on Canadian soil has only seen an upward surge. It has only increased in the last 3 to 4 decades. It has only gone up. Various experts argue that after the abrogation of special status of Jammu and Kashmir, in fact, Pakistan and ISI is also very interested in fueling this narrative because it helps their diversionary or their separatist tendencies when it comes to India. But is it fair to say that it's only the domestic policies, keeping that history in mind, is it fair to say that it's only the domestic political concerns of Justin Trudeau which has led to this situation? Or perhaps this was simmering for far too long and had to happen one day? Mr. Sajjanar.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very important point you make. And yes, the ISI has been involved. Pakistan has always been involved. Pakistan has always been engaged in fishing in troubled waters. Wherever I have been, whichever embassies I have been, whether it is in Brussels or Washington, D.C., I have seen this nefarious tendencies of the ISI to stir up whether it is the Kashmir issue or it is the Khalistan issue. Earlier, there used to be greater focus on Kashmir. Now it is more on Khalistan. And definitely, I think it is, these tendencies are being spiked in different countries. We've seen whether it's in the UK, whether it's in Australia. But the difference is that in UK and Australia, they have promised to take stern action against these extremists, against these hate mongers, against these terrorists, while Canada has taken refuge behind the argument, behind the plea that this is freedom of speech and freedom of expression. Now, we have given them so many dossiers, also Hardeep Singh Nijjar and, 41 other names that have been given out by NIA, and their dossiers have been shared with Canada as to what they have been involved in and what they have been engaged in.
Yeah.
In addition to, what they have done as far as India is concerned, even in Canada, this whole thing about taking out the float of the assassination of Mrs. Indira Gandhi, or bringing out posters with the photographs of India's High Commissioner and India's Consuls General in Vancouver and in Toronto, and saying that, we are going to exterminate them because they are involved in the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar.
Yeah.
I think Canada should wake up to the fact, number one, that it is ISI that is fomenting all this problem. That is where the money is coming from. That is where the training is coming from. And secondly, that this could also very well be a case of internecine gang warfare. As we have seen the killing of Sukha,
with all the inputs coming, and I'd be surprised if the Canadian authorities and intelligence, which seem to be very well versed and aware of what's happening with the Five Eyes, didn't know that Pakistan and ISI were involved. I believe for roughly 3 to 4 decades, the anti-India activities or the pro-Khalistani activities have only been given increased encouragement on the Canadian soil. And would a government change in Canada really help the situation that the two countries are at right now?
Well, first of all, I spoke with the former director of Asia Pacific for Canadian Security Intelligence Service, Michelle Junot Katsuya, who India and China were under his direct purview. The involvement of the ISI, as well as being in part a proxy for China's interference operation, it is. Remember, I've done a lot of work specifically on organized crime, transnational organized crime in Canada, and its direct ties to various political apparatus inside the country. So these issues are being funded in part through organized crime that is directly tied to international players, including China and the ISI, to ultimately create disharmony and ultimately create more political issues inside the country. Right now, CSIS is a domestic intelligence gathering agency. It has no mandate in which to do anything to counteract or interdict against such measures. That falls to the RCMP. Currently, the RCMP, in the way it's constituted, does not allow for the force to get deep into the weeds to actually go after these types of political / terrorist operations that are running inside our country. And our failure to do so starts back from 1985 and the Air India bombing, but also the fact that we allow Khalistani separatists / terrorists to come to our country and ultimately hide in plain sight is come back to roost against us right now. But it has been successive governments and a lack of will within Canada to actually address these kinds of issues for fear of being called racist or going after a particular diaspora community. So that's where we're at today.
It's a conundrum that many countries have faced, including UK. But it's time to call the bluff
Yes.
and say that this is not about racism or having certain discriminatory biases against a particular community, but cracking down upon terror, which is important. Jurjit Sabharwal, coming back to you and talking about the position that the Indian government has taken, and in fact they have made no quarrel with the fact that this is a strong position, a singular position that they have taken, that the Canadian government should act tough on the Khalistani elements within Canada. Let's talk about the internal situation back home. The manner in which the NIA has cracked down upon multiple gangs which are operating in Punjab and in other parts, and a list has been put out. Does India intend to take up all these issues very seriously, not just with Canada, but say with UK, Australia and various other nations? We have done it in the past, but would our approach be far more stern and far more demanding than it has been in the future? Jurjit.
This is, it is very pertinent to mention here that one of my colleagues was talking about 1984. So there's one point I want to quickly make, that before 1980, there was no propaganda such as the Khalistan. In fact, the 7 stations and the Sikh extremism branch of the research and analysis wing, the RAW, was created in 1980 towards December. So there's a common notion that somewhere or the other Ms. Indira Gandhi was involved in that. However, coming back to my point, as you talked about the Canada and the India relations, and how are we going to counter the people who are pro-Khalistan and they're anti-India. So I want you to please focus on one thing, that yes, there is a nexus, and certainly Pakistan is somehow involved in this. The Dal Khalsa chief Gajinder Singh, he lived in Pakistan. Panjwar, who's just got killed in Pakistan, he used to stay in Pakistan. Recently, we have come across a news of Mr. Ashdeep Darla, who has connections, who allegedly has connections with the Lashkar-e-Taiba. So, somewhere or the other, the Pakistan is involved, the Pakistan ISI is involved in this. And when it comes to countries like Canada and the Western countries, see, till the time they give us a solid proof, a solid evidence that yes, we have done this, till the time I would like you to debate on a topic that we are missing. Are we talking about a human here, about his human rights? We're talking about Nijjar, who's a terrorist.
Well, I don't think India at any point, or Indian media at any point, has spoken about the human rights of a terrorist. And in fact, even the Canadians, Jurjit, have raised the issue that it was an action on sovereign territory and India had no right to do it. And human rights of terrorists, I don't think that's even pertinent to debate here, because I agree with you that when it comes to elements like these, there is a far more stronger policy position that the world as a community needs to take. And we have asserted that on the international stage as well. I want to take closing comments from Mr. Ashok Sajjanar. Sir, going forward, how do you see this saga unfolding? The relationships have only worsened in the last few weeks with the developments post G20. Do you see this worsening with certain domestic political factors important for Trudeau that he would want to ensure that plays out in his favor, keeping in mind elections are close in Canada?
Okay, yeah, thank you very much for this question. 2 points here. I think Mr. Trudeau would have found that the fact that he took this matter to the Parliament and announced to the world, it has not taken him anywhere, neither internationally nor nationally nor globally. It has not improved his image, it has not improved his popularity ratings, it has not improved the confidence in him. So he would have found, he might have thought that he'll be able to get support from his Five Eye partners or from the G7. That has not been forthcoming. All the countries have been very guarded and cautious, and what they have been telling Canada is complete the investigation, only after that we can talk.
Okay.
And I think the whole world has found that without completing the investigation, for Mr. Trudeau to come out like this, it is very irresponsible and politically very immature. The last point I would like to make here is that, he needs to take a big breath and, he has painted himself in a corner. It is not to the interest of either of the two countries, India or Canada, or for that matter, geopolitical situation in the world as it is evolving, that relations between India and Canada, India and the West should worsen. So I think that's the way to go, and G7 members, they should also try to apply pressure on Canada.
And the fact that there are about 1.4 million people of Indian origin in Canada, and it makes up for a huge substantial chunk of the diaspora population there, the highest number of international students who go from India to Canada. It's people-to-people connect ties and of course human interests which are at stake right now. Thank you gentlemen for joining us on the broadcast and for this fascinating discussion on the situation between Canada and India. We are slipping into a very short break here on Viewpoint. Up next, Prime Minister Narendra Modi leads the saffron blitz in Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan, touting the Women Reservation Bill cleared in both houses of the parliament and accusing the Congress party of fueling, and I'm quoting the word, urban nationalism. Stay tuned, more on the other side.
The Prime Minister, as you can see on the visuals in front of us, in Jaipur. A little while earlier, we brought you visuals of the Prime Minister in a rally in Madhya Pradesh. Both Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan are due for elections. You'll remember this year, in just a few months from now. In Rajasthan, remember, the Prime Minister is there right now to address audiences. He'll be addressing crowds in just a little while from now. But in Rajasthan, his visit is of particular importance because remember, the BJP in Rajasthan has seen some disquiet within its state unit with various poles of leadership. Former Chief Minister Vasundhara Raje choosing not to attend rallies in multiple areas, seen as a seeming sign of her dissatisfaction with decisions being made by the central BJP leadership. So that disquiet very much remains. Remember, the Rajasthan state is currently ruled by the Congress government. Ashok Gehlot, the Chief Minister, is going to be launching that campaign against the BJP in just a few months from now. The Congress too in Rajasthan has seen its own fair share of infighting. Obviously, you must be familiar with this. Former Deputy Chief Minister Sachin Pilot's infighting with the Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot. So, two separate parties, both the BJP and the Congress in Rajasthan, with their own state party unit complications playing out. In Rajasthan itself, over the last few months, the BJP has carried out multiple yatras. We've also seen Home Minister Amit Shah and the Defence Minister Rajnath Singh address these yatras over the last few days itself. In one such yatra, we saw the Home Minister refer to the Sanatan Dharm controversy that was playing out down south. Remember, this is the controversy where a DMK leader made statements about the Sanatan Dharm. That was looked at as particularly interesting by experts, as an indication almost of what the BJP poll plan could look like in just a few months from now. Now, my colleague Arun with us to bring us more context. Arun, you joined us earlier in the day when the Prime Minister was giving speeches in Madhya Pradesh. Now he's obviously in Jaipur, two election-bound states. Can you bring our audiences more context about what lies in store here in Jaipur?
Well, see, Prime Minister Modi has a very jam-packed schedule today. Firstly, he started his day with a rally in Madhya Pradesh. Then he has reached Rajasthan, and after concluding his program in Rajasthan, remember, he'll be reaching to Delhi and then participate in another program of Deen Dayal Upadhyay, the statue. So now, as we speak, Prime Minister Modi is in Jaipur, and remember that today is the culmination day of the Bharatiya Janata Party's Parivartan Yatra in Rajasthan, and of course, Prime Minister Modi, has been welcomed by women there, and the state BJP has planned this visit of Prime Minister Modi in a way that all the work related to Prime Minister's rally, stage work, etc., would be done by all women workers of Bharatiya Janata Party. And in fact, when Prime Minister Modi is arriving there, then on the both sides of the road, you'll have women workers welcoming Prime Minister Modi, thanking Prime Minister Modi for this women's reservation bill. which has come to the fore, and in fact passed by the Parliament's both houses, and therefore we are seeing that Prime Minister Modi is getting that welcome from the people of Rajasthan. He will of course be engaging with the audiences there. Prime Minister Modi will make sure that whenever he visits poll-bound states, he talk about those issues which are really mattering on the ground. And BJP has been actually targeting Congress party on three issues. One, of course, is women's safety. Second is the appeasement politics of the Congress party, and third is corruption. So these are the issues which BJP highlighted vis-a-vis Rajasthan is concerned in past couple of months.
Tell our audiences, Arun, we know that at least in the state of Rajasthan, anti-incumbency will work in the BJP's favour. But at the same time, the BJP, it seems, has had a difficult few months when it comes to their state unit. It seems, at least according to experts, that there are multiple claimants when it comes to the Chief Minister's position. Obviously, there's the former Chief Minister Vasundhara Raje, but there are also reports claiming that Satish Punia, Gajendra Singh Shekhawat, CP Joshi, all are attempting to lay claim to that position. Can you bring us more context?
Well, see, as of now, BJP has made it very clear to all those leaders whom you've just named that the election will be fought under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi. So there will not be any declaration of the chief ministerial candidate from the BJP's side, and that is, of course, to keep those objections under the wraps, because there are, of course, various leaders who have aspirations. You have Vasundhara Raje, who is the former chief minister of Rajasthan and a very strong leader, and therefore you have other leaders as well, like Gajendra Singh Shekhawat, CP Joshi, Rajendra Rathod. So without taking any risk, BJP is giving clear indication that they will fight this election under the leadership and on the face of Prime Minister Modi. And once, if they form the government, then they will decide who's going.
Welcome back, and let's talk about what's happening as far as assembly elections are concerned and the campaigning spree of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who's leading the election blitz in the critical poll-bound states, the Hindi heartland, Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. The two big states in the run-up to 2024 general elections. Prime Minister Modi played the signature Vikas card, and in the state of Rajasthan, he accused the Congress party of corruption and misgovernance. Highlighting the government's G20 success, he said that India's global position is on the rise. He further added that his administration has achieved something that the opposition could never do. He highlighted the passage of the Women's Reservation Bill in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha and argued that no government, including the Congress party, could stand by this bill for more than 3 decades. In a very stern message to the opposition, especially the Congress party, he argued that Congress is being run by quote-unquote urban Naxals, and that's the root of the problem. But one thing is abundantly clear, that when it comes to the political discourse in states like Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, it's going to be the Vikas model, the double engine ki sarkar that the BJP has spoken of in many other state elections. And the women's vote bank, or the bid to woo the women voters, is something that all political parties will go all out for. That's our focus on Viewpoint.
मध्य प्रदेश में भाजपा की सरकार को लगभग 20 साल पूरे हो चुके हैं। यानी जो युवा इस बार के चुनावों में पहली बार वोट डालेंगे, उन्होंने भाजपा की सरकार को ही देखा है। ये युवा सौभाग्यशाली हैं कि इन्होंने एमपी में कांग्रेस का वो बुरा शासन, वो बुराइयां उन्होंने देखी नहीं है। एमपी में कांग्रेस के शासन की पहचान थी कुनीति, कुशासन और करोड़ों का करप्शन आजादी के बाद मध्य प्रदेश में लंबे समय तक कांग्रेस का ही शासन रहा, लेकिन कांग्रेस ने साधन संपन्न मध्य प्रदेश को, समर्थ युवाओं वाले मध्य प्रदेश को बीमारू बना दिया। दोस्तों, बीमारू बना दिया। कांग्रेस पहले बर्बाद हुई, अब बैंकरप्ट हुई, और अब कांग्रेस ने अपना ठेका दूसरों को दे दिया है। कांग्रेस को अब कांग्रेस के नेता नहीं चला रहे, अब कांग्रेस एक ऐसी कंपनी बन गई है, नारों से लेकर नीतियों तक हर चीज आउटसोर्स कर रही है। और ये ठेका किसके पास है जानते हैं? कांग्रेस का ठेका अब कुछ अर्बन नक्सलियों के पास है। कांग्रेस में अब अर्बन नक्सलियों की ही चल रही है। ये ग्राउंड पर कांग्रेस का हर कार्यकर्ता महसूस कर रहा है। इसलिए कांग्रेस जमीन पर भी लगातार खोखली हो रही है। कुछ दिन पहले ही लोकसभा और राज्यसभा में माताओं, बहनों, बेटियों के लिए 33% सीटें आरक्षित करने का कानून पारित हुआ। नारी शक्ति वंदन अधिनियम देश ने नया इतिहास रच दिया है। दशक से देश की माताएं, बहनें इसका इंतजार कर रही थी, बल्कि ये तक कहा जाने लगा कि शायद ये कभी नहीं हो पाएगा। आखिर मोदी है तो हर गारंटी पूरी होने की गारंटी है। गहलोत सरकार ने राजस्थान के लोगों के, यहां के युवाओं के 5 महत्वपूर्ण वर्ष बर्बाद कर दिए, और इसलिए राजस्थान के लोगों ने ठान लिया है, गहलोत सरकार को हटाएंगे, बीजेपी को वापस लाएंगे।
Well, many argue that the road to the 2024 Lok Sabha elections and the victory of the assembly elections are correlated. And these elections, the assembly elections, are being seen as the litmus test or some kind of a precursor to the big elections of 2024. Joining us on the broadcast, Shazia Almi, the national spokesperson of BJP, Anshul Trivedi of the Congress Party, Chaitanya Singh, who is the spokesperson of NCP, is also joining us on the broadcast. Mr. Rashid Kidwai, who is an author and senior journalist, is also with us on the show. Good evening to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us. Anshul, we played out the reactions or the voices that had come in through that rallies that the Prime Minister had done and the various statements that he made through the course of the day. I want to open the show with your comments on what he said about the Congress Party. And the Prime Minister launched a scathing attack on the Congress Party and argued that the Congress Party has outsourced its policies, and I'm quoting him, to urban Naxals, preventing the passage of the Women Reservation Bill. It's a serious charge to make that you made a promise to the people of this nation, but you never fulfilled it. Your reaction, your response.
Am I audible?
You're audible, perfectly audible. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So, first of all, what the Prime Minister, we don't have a Prime Minister. Pradhan Mantri nahi hai, Prachar Mantri hai. That's all that he does. He's not a PM, he's an EM, event manager. He goes from state to state, campaigns, tells lies, gets rejected by people, and then comes back again. Now, as far as his allegations are concerned, they are very laughable. The Congress is run by Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge. He is a devout Ambedkarite. And to cast aspersions and allegations of such kinds is not befitting of a Prime Minister. But he has never held the dignity of office that was required by the Prime Minister. As far as the Women's Reservation Bill is concerned, you see, it was the Congress which first initiated this in the local bodies across the country through Panchayati Raj. It was the vision of Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. It was implemented by Narasimha Rao ji, and we ensured then and there that the women had representation in local bodies. And it was the Congress which introduced it in 2009-10. At that time, we could not get it passed. This time, what he has given is not women's reservation; it is Jumla. He has linked it to delimitation and census figures, which will come after 10 years. We don't know what will happen. And ये जुमला पकड़ा के फिर से अपनी दुकान चला रहे हैं. We demand from the Congress Party, listen to me. We demand from the Congress Party that make the quotas for OBCs there and implement it right now. We supported it in the parliament.
मैं आपसे यही पूछने वाली थी अंशुल जी that if this is just a jumla, then why did all political parties support it on the floor of the house? Shazi Almi, please go ahead, make your agenda. I'll come back to you. Anshul, I'll come back to you. Shazi Almi, please go ahead.
So I'll come to Madhya Pradesh specifically, and by the reference to what was the part of the Bimaru states, a term coined by Ashish Bose many years back, and now it is no longer part of the list. And Madhya Pradesh is very well out of it, so is Uttar Pradesh. So I think the acronym Bimaru doesn't stay. But let me tell everybody, as enunciated by my friend from Congress Party, what is the idea of democracy? Prime Minister, according to them, is a Prachar Mantri. He keeps doing false propaganda. People keep voting for him. That means by just saying this, he did not even only mock the Prime Minister, which is his right to do because a Prime Minister is the tallest face of this largest political party of the world, but he's also mocking the wisdom of all the voters by saying voters go for propaganda. So voters are big fools according to Congress Party, and I think voters will show you what a big fool you are to call them fools. That's one thing. Secondly, he talked about so-and-so person being an Ambedkarite. You all know how Congress Party treated Ambedkar and how you had a candidate who made sure that Ambedkar got defeated, not B.R. Ambedkar ji. How he was defeated not once but twice, and this was the handiwork of Congress. So less said about Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the better. Thirdly, and more importantly, about women's reservation bill. Right now, look at your double speak. Right now on your channel, Anushka, we just heard him call it a jumla. And what were you doing? What were you doing in the parliament? Both the houses, quietly sitting, being signatory to this jumla. I mean, it's a matter of great shame that you do something in the parliament, which I can tell you everybody watched.
So, Shazia ji, there's also this particular demand of OBC reservation.
I made certain particular.
Yeah, I'm raising that with her. Shazia ji, there's also this particular demand of OBC reservation within the women's reservation bill, within the women's quota. Yeah.
Anusha, and not linking it to census.
Yes.
This is the reason. This is exactly the reason why the bill was not passed for 27 years. In fact, Sonia Gandhi, she keeps tom-tomming the fact that she was the one who got the bill passed in Rajya Sabha. Ask her and ask him, was the OBC reservation there? And come discuss it, make sure it happens. You're asking for a caste census, you don't even know. They did a caste census in Karnataka. Their party, they could not even table it. Tell me, how will you identify a number of OBCs? How will you identify?
I'll bring in.
You all know that you talk.
Can I respond because it's been asked with me?
One second. Yes, please go ahead, Anshul. Make your point. 30 seconds to you. Then I want to bring in other guests also into the discussion.
Yeah. So the thing is that we already have the data of the SCCC that we had done in our previous government, and we should make it public. Now it's very interesting that the Prime Minister has linked the issue of women's reservation to the census and to delimitation. But when we say
There's
that
a
if we
84th
want to have
amendment.
social,
I'll come back to you, Shazia ji. I'll come back to you. All right, one at a time. Please go ahead. Anshul, make your point.
Yeah.
Then I'll give her the time to respond. First your point, then I'll go to other guests. Yes.
So it's interesting that the Prime Minister has linked the reservation of women to the census and delimitation. But when we say that we want to have a relook at issues of social justice and reservations, when Rahul ji raises the point that why there are only 3 secretaries out of 90 in the central government, let's have a caste census so that we have accurate data to make policies. They say that we will not have caste census. They are trying to beat around the bush. So that is their double speak.
Can I just answer that?
One second.
It was.
No, this is a...
No. Shazia ji, I'll give you the time to respond. You can note that point and you can come back and respond to that. Anshul, you have made your point. There are other panelists as well, patiently waiting for their turn. Chaitanya Singh, 1 second. Shazia ji, I'll come back to you. Please allow me 2 minutes. Chaitanya Singh, there's an interesting development that has happened as we were gearing up to do a 6 p.m. show today, that AIADMK has snapped its ties with the BJP. Many argue that the allies for the BJP in the NDA right now have not really survived, or the manner in which the allies ought to be treated. This is one point that the opposition parties have also raised with respect to the BJP. Do you think that this women reservation bill is something that will be able to get BJP the kind of place and position that it wants in the Hindi heartland, in states like Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan, especially in MP where the Congress party seems to be very, very confident?
Look, I feel that the women's reservation bill is going to have far-reaching benefits for people at large. Let's not talk about electoral benefits to any party. Obviously, the BJP had the Prime Minister Narendra Modi had the resolve to bring this on the floor of the House and pass it. If the Congress wanted, it could have done so back in the past, but it did not. So obviously, there was lack of some kind of will. Where there is a will, there is a way. So obviously, women voters will definitely support the NDA. Women voters are so elated. The women of this country are so elated that they have been sitting in the back lines for almost 70 years. India has gained independence. Finally, they are getting some sort of recognition. And of course, the women are definitely going to, they see that it's the Narendra Modi NDA government that has brought this bill and passed it. There are certain technicalities involved, but any law for it, any bill for it to be made a law, there are certain technicalities.
Mr. Rashid Kidwai, in your experience, in your expertise, the fact that this is a contingent legislation, which means that it's dependent on a caste census and the delimitation exercise for it to be a reality. Is this something that will be relevant to the voters out there? Because BJP is going to the people and saying, look, we have made something impossible possible. Prime Minister said, Modi hai to mumkin hai, and that is why you are able to see the women reservation a reality today. The criticism of the Congress and the opposition is, this is a jumla, it will not be true for the times to come. Do you think this narrative of the opposition or the Congress will stick with the voters, or perhaps the battle of perception is already won for the BJP?
Anusha, I'm not so sure whether the battle of perception will be won by the BJP, because we know from our experience as a journalist that it is the cash and delivery method that works. In the sense that people get something tangible, something doable, things are given. A post-dated check, a promise, etc. Has a far less traction or value. So I think the reservation bill, and mind you, the BJP increasingly for over years, consolidated its hold over, the OBC voters, not only in Madhya Pradesh, all over India. So the fact is that the BJP will now face up, and I find that Congress stand is very intriguing, very politically intriguing, because they are suddenly talking about caste census, as Shazia was saying. In 2010, when the women reservation bill came up, there was no provision for quota within quota, and that was the reason why it fell. So the Congress, obviously it's a case of clear afterthought. We may criticize the Congress, but it's political, because that is something the OBC voters in Madhya Pradesh and outside are going to think about it, why there is no quota within quota. Because since the mandalization of Indian politics, this issue has become very potent. So I am saying, we should hold our horses. We do not know which way the wind would blow finally.
One more point for you before I go back to Shazia Almi. So many argue that the political arithmetic or grammar of vote bank politics in this country has been rewritten in the last 7 to 8 years in the term of Prime Minister, in the last 2 terms of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Is this caste consolidation or the Hindu vote bank consolidation that has happened has worried many parties, and that is why perhaps this one-off demand coming in from the Congress party, especially with respect to the women reservation bill, that there should be an OBC quota. Is that something that you read in this political narrative?
Absolutely, Anusha, you are spot on, and that is why Congress has revised its stand, and that is why it is talking about the caste-based census in a very big way, because it knows that the BJP would not be able to do, and if they do it, then there is going to be a reaction from the upper caste. You see, the BJP is, has to do a very fine balancing act between the, so to say, the opinion maker, that is the upper caste, and even scored constituency, that's the OBC. So that is why this Congress is trying to clear the pitch for the BJP.
Interesting you say that. I want to bring in Anshul Trivedi and Shazia Almi back into the discussion. Anshul, are the political compulsions dictating what the Congress party is doing? You never spoke of the OBC reservations earlier. And now suddenly when you're speaking about it, is it because the majority vote consolidation has happened, which is not in favor of the Congress party?
No, I mean, there are two specific instances where I'd like to respond to this. One is the case of the Women's Reservation Bill. So we supported the Women's Reservation Bill and we said that implement it immediately and provide quotas. However, the issue of caste census is not something which has been raised just now. It's been brewing for a very long time in states of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. And even if you look at it in Karnataka, Rahul ji made a statement that we're going to have this census. Because if we have to have socially just policies and economically just policies, we need to have data in place for us to make informed decisions. Now, you see, the Congress is going in with certain planks of economic justice and social justice. Our 5 guarantees, which worked in Himachal, which worked in Karnataka, which won us Madhya Pradesh last time, despite all the electioneering by the Prime Minister, and which is going to win us the state again this time around. Is there, it's based on certain data. And similarly, if we want to have a more just and representative country and administration, we need to have the caste census data. Rahul said it very clearly. Just one line. Just one line. Rahul said very clearly that for us, if you look at the idea of politics that the Congress has, it's about devolving power to the people. It's giving power to the people, and 47 was just one. It was a starting point. Then came the 93rd amendment that Rajiv ji brought in, that Narasimha Rao ji passed, that gave
I get that. I get that history. I'm not saying that the Congress party has no substance when they argue that in principle that they have always supported the reservation for women. Yes, it did not turn into a political reality for various factors. Or as the BJP argues, the political will was lacking. But I'm not taking the complete credit away from that. One point, Anshul. One question that I want to address to you, that the BJP also asked you, that if this bill is a jumla, why was it supported by the Congress party on the floor of the House? A simple question.
No, So what we're saying is that the idea that was proposed by Sonia ji was not a jumla. It's a good thing. Everyone supports it. We are saying that you link it to delimitation, which will take 10 years. You link it to census, which will happen in 2031, 32, who knows what. They say a week is a long time in politics, and here you have delayed it till 10 years. That is the jumla. The women's reservation is not a jumla. But supported in principle.
But Anshul, that's just playing with words. I mean,
complete my point in.
I'll come to you, Shazi. After this, I'll come to you. Yeah, let him finish his point. Yes.
In 10 seconds, I'll complete it. When we tried to bring it in, we did not have a government of simple majority, and so we could not make the provisions which are required to get it passed that time.
Well, my question to you was something very different. Shazia, make your point. Shazia, make your point. I'll come to you. Shazia Almi right now. One at a time. Shazia Almi, please go ahead.
How are they feign helplessness? When we all know when the nuclear deal with the United States was to be signed, they made sure there was consensus. Surely Sonia Gandhi could have wrapped the knuckles of her partners, RJD and Samajwadi Party, knowing very well that
one at a time. Shazia Almi right now. Yes.
And I will speak, and I think Anshul, you will have to listen.
Sorry.
And as I waited,
go ahead.
So and also I want to say the 84th Amendment ensures that any kind of change in delimitation or any increase of seats should only be possible after the 2026 census. Why did it happen in 21? We all know there was COVID pandemic. What is the best way to ensure there should be women's constituencies? Who will decide that? They're reserved for women. A transparent method via delimitation. And people believe the word of Modi ji. It has been made into an act. There is no wishy-washy attitude of, oh, we did not have numbers, we did not. When you wanted to have numbers, you had it.
All right.
Women were not worth it. And another point I want to make, my friend Anshul, obviously, like his political leader, Rahul Gandhi, doesn't listen in, even to the parliamentary debates. You mentioned OBCs, and you mentioned how many secretaries there are. Do you know in the services, if you were to have really a cutoff for them, and if you were to see the cutoff date or year from where they would start for them to be secretaries now, it would have to be 92, 93. Okay. And which government was in place. So it's another self-goal. The more you quote Rahul Gandhi, the more stuck you'll get.
I have last 1 minute on the show. I have last 1 minute on the show.
You just defeat your own purpose.
I get your point, Shazia. I get your point. Chaitanya, you had a closing comment to make. Please go ahead. Then I'll go to Mr. Rashid Kidwai. Chaitanya.
I just wanted to add something to what Shazia was saying. We have Sonia Gandhi ji on record saying that the women's reservation bill had a lot of opposition within the Congress itself. So I mean, if yes, they didn't have, if there was a will of the Congress party wanted to pass it, why couldn't they? What was stopping you?
Well,
what was stopping you?
If history were to be dug in, if history were to be dug in, a lot of people had objections to the women reservation bill, including there were certain leaders in BJP as well. Anshul, 30 seconds to you, then I close the show.
What I'm trying to say is that all this debate that is being carried out right now, first of all, Shazia ji, we did not have a consensus on nuclear deal. Your government opposed the end of nuclear apartheid.
I'm sorry, Anshul, I'm afraid we are digressing from the topic. We are digressing from the topic. I am not taking the last word from Mr. Rashid Kidwai. That's all the time that I have. That's all the time that I have. Shazia, Ilmi, Anshul Trivedi, Chaitanya Singh and Mr. Rashid Kidwai. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. That's all the time that we have on Viewpoint tonight. Up next, Plain Speak with Shivani Gupta.
Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. Indian government has initiated a crackdown on Khalistani secessionists living abroad. The NIA, remember, has confiscated properties in Punjab belonging to SFJ chief Pannu under Section 35 of the Unlawful